Hey folks, it's Sam, and as you see, this very dramatic headline, End of Trumpism, Uranus Transit Case Study. I'm going to be showing you a very indisputable case study of the transit of Uranus as it went through Aries starting in 2016 and just ending here in 2024. And these dates that coincided with the shift of Uranus from Aries into Taurus. And the class that I did, Outer Planets in Vedic Astrology, which you can also get access to. But today I'm going to be talking about this potential end to Trumpism, authoritarianism, right-wing politics, which we're also seeing all around the world, and how it greatly coincides with this transit of Uranus through Aries and now in Taurus. Please like the video. Clicking like helps a lot more than you know. It pushes the video higher in relevant video searches. Also, please leave a nice comment. Comments also help more than you know as it raises the video in searches. Many times with hundreds of likes, there are only a dozen comments and they can be disproportionately negative. So be positive. Let me know if you like this. Even just a few words really helps. So subscribe, ring the bell to get notified of upcoming videos. So this is one of those things that you really can't dispute because this is astrological transits. This isn't my bias or my anything. The rise of Donald Trump as a political figure happened in the middle of 2016, which is right when Uranus went into Aries. Now, this is the Sidereal zodiac. Why is this happening? The Sidereal zodiac, you're not used to hearing the outer planets talked about in the Sidereal zodiac, but again, this is how I've been using them for years. And in the class that I talked about, I did a whole course here where you could see this outer planets in Vedic astrology. You see here that I have these dates mapped out of all the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Again, this is available at the Oracle 5D star level at this website. If you just click join, as you see here, if you just click subscribe, you can get that. And again, it's part of the Outer Planets in Vedic Astrology class that I taught. But this is indisputable. This is just a planetary cycle. So whether you think this would be apply to the end of Trumpism or authoritarianism, as I've explained here, or maybe you think it's the end of something else. It is the end of something. And maybe you think that the authoritarians are the Democrats or the whatever. But again, we can see around the world that actually it is a reestablishment of the left that has recently happened. And again, when we look directly at the transit, you could see this and these incredible coincidences. On July 21st, 2016, Donald Trump accepted the Republican nomination for president. That was 20 days after after Uranus entered Sidereal Aries, approximately. And again, the planets poke their head in and they go retrograde and whatnot. But approximately 20 days after Uranus established itself in Aries. So again, before Trump even became the declared nominee, there was still this idea that, they were going to take him off the ticket. And even the Republican convention in 2016, Ted Cruz, there were Cruz defectors. There were still never Trumpers all over the place. They still weren't really sure. But again, what happened is Uranus went into Aries and consolidated support for Trump at that time. Since then, we've been dealing with this Uranus in Aries. And again, I interpret it the way I interpreted it because Donald Trump right now, his lawyers and his entire next presidency, if he becomes president, is going to be in the backdrop of someone who wants absolute immunity. His lawyers argued before the Supreme Court that he should have absolute immunity, and the court said, okay, for the most part, now the president is basically a king, basically a dictator. By the way, that means Joe Biden is right now. If Joe Biden wanted to. Have you noticed what Joe Biden has done recently? Joe Biden just put forth 3 proposals to try to claw back and to go against these authoritarian moves. And again, I want you to understand, it's not just Trumpism, it's authoritarianism. Even the courts in America are now saying that the president is essentially a king, an authoritarian. It says that pretty much anything, as long as the president says that it's part of official duty, he's immune, he's above the law. Again, even the points they argued was he could assassinate his political rivals, and as long as it was part of his official duties, like I ordered SEAL Team 6 to do it, I ordered the military to go into San Francisco and blow up the city, he's immune from prosecution. That the president is now above the law. And again, make sure you understand, right now Joe Biden is enjoying those privileges if he chooses to use them. If the current president thinks that a contender is a threat to democracy based on his interpretation, and he orders, again, a sniper to kill his political rivals, hey, it was part of my official duty. If you think I'm exaggerating, you haven't been paying attention. This just happened. So our Supreme Court now has validated this concept. And again, Joe Biden, the current president, just put forth proposals to revoke that and to also make Supreme Court justices accountable because, again, there's so much corruption on the Supreme Court now, and to try to claw back some of the democracy in our democracy, right? This is also shown by this Uranus moving into Taurus, or this Uranus moving out of Aries. That's why I'm interpreting it this way. Now, again, maybe you say, well, it's really the Democrats who are the authoritarians and the, trans, reading, trans athletes and kids and all that. Maybe that's the way you interpret it. Okay, fine. You can interpret it that way. I don't. I interpret it this way because you also see it all around the world. The last President Trump also fell in love with Kim Jong-un, a dictator. Kim Jong-un's stature was very elevated because the American president fell in love with him. His words, not mine. We fell in love. He wrote me love letters. He loved Vladimir Putin. He literally loves him, admires him. Listen to the way he talks about Vladimir Putin and the way he talks about, literally Joe Biden or other American presidents. Listen to the way Donald Trump talks about dictators. Duterte, Viktor Orban. He loves dictators. Though they're strong, right? So again, in case you're not aware of this, there hasn't been an election really in Russia for more than 20 years. Putin is a dictator. It's not an opinion. They don't have free and fair elections. It's not a democracy. North Korea, of course, is definitely not a democracy. So the elevation, and again, 10 years ago, it would be unthinkable that the president of the United States would be more aligned with dictators where there are not free and fair elections and that the Supreme Court of the United States would be passing edicts that give the president absolute immunity to violate the law as long as it's within his official duties, which could be interpreted as just about anything. If that doesn't seem like authoritarian to you, I don't know what does. So again, but look at what's happened since Uranus went into Taurus. So July 21st, 2024, notice how it's the same Gregorian calendar day. July 21st, 2024, this is when Joe Biden dropped out of the race and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris. That's actually less than 2 months after Uranus entered Sidereal Taurus. Again, this is Sidereal zodiac, the zodiac used in Vedic astrology, which coincides with the nakshatras in the sky, not the tropical zodiac where we project the vernal equinox into the sky in order to locate planets. No, we locate the planets in the sky against the backdrop of stars, the sky. against the ecliptic. So again, this comports with what I was just talking about recently, where it's not only that you saw that we see a strong potential shift in America now, particularly that Harris has joined the race and a very strong Democratic contender against Trump, who definitely represents a Christian nationalism, this Christian right-wing nationalism. And let's be clear, Trumpism, which is what it's called now, it's really not even the Republican Party anymore. It's literally Trumpism. Legitimately started in July of 2016 when he took that nomination. Before then, anything could have happened. But he was given the nomination then right as Uranus went into Aries, and Sidereal Aries, and now Uranus has just left within a couple weeks. With a couple months. It was actually at the end of May. But again, since the end of May and like into June, this is when we started to see the leftism reassert itself in Europe, current politics of the Western world, US, France, UK, right? And I just did a case study on this. And again, so I'm looking at this as a trend, but it's unmistakable, this transit. Again, you can interpret it however you want. This isn't a matter of, oh, Sam, you just don't like Trump, or you don't da-da-da-da. Again, maybe you think I'm interpreting it wrong, and that Uranus transit through Sidereal Aries didn't mean the elevation of authoritarianism in a way we haven't seen, at least in our lifetimes. We haven't seen that rise of authoritarianism in our lifetime, like we just saw for the last 8 years. So again, we try to explain what is Trumpism, how did it come about? Because again, I'm 60. I've seen a lot of presidents. I remember George W. Bush and Clinton and Reagan, and they weren't this. They weren't Trumpism, which is literally like a whole different. It's not part of the Republican Party. In fact, the party, again, it's a Christian nationalist movement. I'm not even going to talk about Project 25 and all these other things, or the erosion of certain types of civil rights or whatever. Its main tenet, though, is authoritarianism at this point. That you have people, most of the people, at least people that go to these rallies and whatnot, they want Trump to be a dictator. You ask them, I'm not saying it's all of them, but it's way too many. We've never heard this before in our lifetimes. If a political leader ever even hinted that they wanted to be a dictator, or that they wanted to be king for life, or people would be utterly ashamed and embarrassed to say, yes, I wouldn't mind a dictator as long as it's Trump. Come on, you haven't heard this? Of course you have. So this phenomena, if you want to look at an astrological marker, this is the closest one I've seen. And again, this is Aries. Uranus is about eccentric, sudden, shocking things that just distort the paradigm and that break through and show us something shocking about ourselves or about the world. And Aries is literally the sign of dictator, right? Hitler had like 4 planets in Aries. And of course, Sidereal Aries. By the way, it's one of the reasons why I think it's a great case study for the zodiacs, because all those planets go to Taurus if you use tropical zodiac instead of all those planets in Aries. And he looks more like Aries than Taurus for sure. But anyway, so this shift is unmistakable. Maybe you don't agree with the interpretation, but if you want to see, and you want to maybe have a little hope about where there's been a big shift in the country, in the world, maybe if the last 8 to 10 years, I'm going to just say 8 years, and I'm going to say since the rise of Trumpism, because that's when it really started. And even kind of right before that, we had like, I'm not going to say Brexit is the same thing because it was more economic, but it's the same kind of, again, nationalism is underneath it all. There's a lot of nationalism and authoritarianism, nationalism, right wing. And so this is a shift where Uranus is now no longer in Aries, it's in Taurus, which is again more about stability, values, even I would venture to say things like human rights, the earth, those things that are more, again, grounded, peaceful, and wanting to get along. Even notice how the shift in the U.S. political race, it's a really good example, because we went from two decrepit old men to now one decrepit old man and one energizing woman who is like really renewed a lot of energy and hope into that segment of the country, and really trembling fear on the other side, because now it's like, oh my God. And all it is she's normal. It's not like she's some savior. My God, she's just someone who is not talking about sharks and electrocution and Hannibal Lecter, or can't form a sentence barely because he's so old. That's what we had before. Now it's just somebody who's normal and articulate and, whatever. But so the shift, I think, is really indicative of a big shift that has happened, that's going to continue. And again, if you want to see again, this is an astrological case study, and of course it's politically charged, and, Sam the liberal is freaking out, whatever. Sam, the person who lived, 50 years before the world went haywire. Yeah, so anyway, who sees things like, crazy speeches compared to like, well, here's a normal politician. Yeah, she's part of the same system, but hey, at least it's like, let's not strip everybody's rights away. Let's not anoint the president king. And again, you have to understand, this is what our Supreme Court has done. So I want you to see this even more than just Trump, because again, you mention Trump now and everybody loses their mind. They can't think straight anymore. He's the only president who has denied an election, tried to put up fake electors, then when that didn't work, summon a mass to the Capitol. He still hasn't conceded the last election. And the Supreme Court now is skewed so much in his favor that they even ruled amazingly that the president is basically a king. As long as it's within presidential duty, they're above the law. They can literally have people killed, executed. You should be scared to death of this instead of worrying about Sam the liberal. You should hope that whoever the next president is, they do something to end this, because we now live legally in an authoritarian state. And the fact that Joe Biden isn't exercising this absolute power right now should show you that he's not an authoritarian, because the presidency now, and the president is an authoritarian now in America. The court just said it. And Biden, who is the one who could be using the power now, is saying, we need to end that. We need to overturn that. We need to limit Supreme Court justice tenure to 18 years, and we need to make them just as accountable as other judges and public officials, instead of having the Supreme Court be above it all. Again, this is pure authoritarianism, Donald Trump aside. So this whole incredibly crazy shift toward authoritarianism in the world, and this elevation coincides with the Sidereal Aries transit. And again, it just ended. So let's hope. And I'm also saying this is an astrological indicator of a potential hope. Like, this huge shift just happened. And again, I've drawn some hope from Europe recently. And then we were even over here in America going, God, why can't we do this? Why can't we do something like this? And then we have. So again, if you want to also see my case study on outer planets and the transits in the members area, that's available to you right now. Outer planets and Vedic astrology, as well as all of these are the member forecasts and updates. When you go to samsmembersite.com, this is again at the Oracle 5D Avatar $29.99 level. You get that outer planets and Vedic astrology and hours of other free classes as well. And again, you can also get at the website astrologyisreal.com. I'll leave it in the link. You can get a discount on the full course I taught on Vedic astrology and world events. The outer planets and Vedic astrology was a bonus. And you can get that now. It's regularly $97. It's like 20 hours. and you use the code 24SAVE50, 24SAVE50, and you can save $50 on that class. But I wanted to do this video today because this is some real important stuff, and I think that this is when you see, this is when you can really see astrology, and especially something that I don't usually talk about, because I don't use outer planets in natal astrology because they're unreliable and they're unnecessary. The natal astrology karma of individuals is very locked down with rulerships and the chakras and all of that, the visible planets. But these outer planets, they can definitely refer to larger cultural shifts and the sidereal zodiac, which I don't like to say correct because there are people that use tropical and it's okay to use it. But to me, it's the correct zodiac because it's actually the zodiac. It's the sky. It's not the seasons projected into the sky. It's not defining the sky by the seasons projected into the sky. Because the seasons just have to do with where the Earth is in its orbit around the sun. Where Mars is in the sky has nothing to do with the seasons on Earth. That's what I'm saying. So anyway, the sidereal, the transits of outer planets through the sidereal zodiac is incredibly telling, mind-blowing, and that's what that free course is that you would get if you join at the 5D avatar level. You should watch this Outer Planets in Vedic Astrology because I go through Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto and the last 4 or 5 shifts of each one. Like the previous 8 years before this were the Obama years, basically, when Uranus was going through Pisces, right? That was like 2008 to 2016. Previous 8 years, kind of like the George Bush years, George Bush presidencies, was when Uranus was going through Aquarius, for example. It's not just about presidents, but it's about culture and what these things mean. So again, this is sidereal zodiac and outer planets, and it's incredibly accurate, just like you're seeing now. So again, hopefully you can take your political fired up thing and set it aside a little bit and just notice the shift, because that's what we're talking about, and it's undeniable. Again, maybe you don't think Aries or Uranus in Aries means authoritarian, or that, you know, the rise of Trumpism, authoritarianism, one strong, powerful leader who's going to rule us all. But I'm sorry, that's what Aries is. Even in the Tarot, the Aries is the emperor. Have you ever seen in your lifetime a time when suddenly we want some guy to be the emperor? Particularly that guy. No. Well, this is the transit of Uranus through Aries, and it just ended. And notice what's happened with the emperor since the transit ended. So we'll leave it at that, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel.